The traffickers probably thought the streets of Portland were their playground, untouchable and under their control. But with these recent operations, that illusion has been shattered. Law enforcement is sending a clear message. No city, no neighborhood, no street is off limits when it comes to protecting communities and dismantling criminal networks. Every raid, every arrest, every seizure chips away at their grip, reminding them that the law is watching and that citizens and their families won't be left vulnerable. Portland, like countless other cities, is reclaiming its streets one operation at a time. That's right, you can feel the shift in the air. For years, Portland stood as ground zero for far-left activism, a city where endless protests, chaos, and unrest seemed almost normalized. From clashes with police to nightly marches, the streets became a proving ground for radicals, and for too long it appeared as if the forces of disruption had free rein. But now, everything is changing, and the change is seismic. Across the city, what we're witnessing isn't just enforcement, it's a full-scale crackdown that's shaking the foundations of a movement that thought it was untouchable. Streets that once echoed with chants, drums, and the crackle of burning barricades are now dominated by flashing lights, sirens, and heavily armed law enforcement units. Officers are moving with coordination and precision, sweeping through areas that were once hotbeds of unrest, making arrests, seizing weapons, and dismantling infrastructure that enabled months, even years of chaos. What's particularly remarkable is the scope of this operation. It's no longer just Portland police managing local disturbances. Federal agencies have stepped in, coordinating with state and local forces to target not only the foot soldiers of the far-left anarchist movement, but also the shadowy financiers and organizers who provided funding, equipment, and planning. Individuals who thought they could remain hidden in the background are now being exposed. The people who funded months of chaos are learning that their resources, no matter how deep, cannot shield them from accountability. For those on the ground, the impact is immediate and unmistakable. Foot soldiers who once roamed the streets without fear are being apprehended. Leaders who orchestrated and incited violence are being pulled from safe houses. Equipment caches and weapons stockpiles are being confiscated. It's a level of operational intensity that the city hasn't seen in decades, and it signals a shift from reactive policing to proactive enforcement, a city taking back control from the forces that sought to dominate it. And it's not just Portland. This is a statement, a national message. The crackdown serves as a warning that disruption funded with millions coordinated from afar and executed on the streets of America will no longer go unanswered. The movement may have believed it was localized, that Portland could serve as a testing ground for chaos, but federal authorities are making it clear no city is untouchable, no network is too insulated, and no level of funding can hide the people responsible from justice. From the videos already released, the narrative is undeniable. Rioters who once acted with impunity are now being caught on camera as arrests are made. The contrast is stark. Once, these streets were a stage for anarchists to broadcast their power. Now those same streets are a theater of accountability, where law enforcement shows what happens when order meets lawlessness. And here's the real kicker. This crackdown doesn't just remove individuals from the street. It dismantles the structure behind the chaos. Communication channels, hidden networks, and financial pipelines that enable destruction are being exposed and severed. What may have looked like random protests and scattered riots was in fact a coordinated effort, a movement with infrastructure. And the law is now systematically dismantling that infrastructure piece by piece. For the average Portland resident, the change is palpable. Streets are quieter, neighborhoods feel safer. Businesses that closed for months due to unrest are reopening. Citizens can walk without fear of being caught in violent protests. What was once a city overshadowed by the far-left radical presence is beginning to feel like Portland again, a city reclaiming itself. But this isn't just a moment in Portland's history, it's a turning point for the country. For years, far-left groups and anarchist organizations operated under the assumption that urban chaos could continue unchecked, that enforcement would always be reactive, and that national attention could be manipulated. Now the tide is turned. The message is clear. Disruption will be met with precision, coordination, and accountability, and those who finance or orchestrate violence are not beyond the reach of justice. So patriots, observers, and concerned citizens, pay attention. This isn't a story that will fade quickly. It's history being made in real time. It's a demonstration of what coordinated law enforcement can achieve when intelligence, timing, and authority align. And for those who witnessed the chaos for years, it's a reminder that the rule of law can and will assert itself. Grab your popcorn, gang, because this is the moment many thought would never come. The streets that once belonged to chaos now belong to accountability. The anarchists who believed they were untouchable are learning the hard way that actions have consequences. And the deeper network behind the protests, the financiers, organizers, and shadowy figures are being exposed like never before. This is the dawn of a new era, not just for Portland, but for the message it sends to every city where chaos has taken root. Order is coming, and it's coming decisively, efficiently, and without compromise. Antifa is facing an unprecedented crackdown in Portland, and the streets that were once theirs are no longer safe. The groups that once roamed freely, dressed head to toe in black with homemade shields, masks, and the occasional theatrical costume, yes, even those bunny masks, are now in retreat. No longer is chaos their playground. Police have adopted military-style precision, using coordinated sweeps, surveillance, and advanced targeting to isolate key agitators. City blocks that were once contested zones are now carefully monitored, with officers tagging high-priority targets with laser accuracy, moving swiftly to remove ringleaders before crowds can react. The scenes playing out nightly are almost cinematic. Each time a protest leader emerges, they are immediately neutralized, and the remaining crowd scatters in panic. The once confident bravado of Antifa, their chants, theatrics, and seemingly unshakable coordination has been reduced to desperate shouts and chaos. The sound of bodies hitting pavement and the clatter of shields marks the new reality. Portland streets, previously a stage for their defiance, are quieting under the unrelenting pressure of law enforcement. Those who used to dominate downtown marches now hide in shadows, afraid to step outside after dark. Months ago, these streets belonged to them. Now fear dictates every move, but the crackdown on the ground is just one layer of a much larger strategy. The Trump administration has escalated this response into a nationwide full-scale operation aimed not just at street-level operatives, but at the shadowy financial networks behind the unrest. This is no longer about arrests for individual riots or skirmishes, it's about dismantling the infrastructure that enables these movements to function and flourish. At a recent White House roundtable, President Trump ordered federal agencies to pursue what officials are calling the protest industrial complex, the organizations, foundations, and billionaire donors who bankroll and organize the chaos. The plan involves a multi-agency approach, leveraging the Justice Department, FBI, Treasury, IRS, and even other federal partners to trace money flows, donations, and logistical support. Nonprofits that fund travel, bail funds for arrested agitators, and organizations spreading propaganda are now official targets. Figures like George Soros, the Open Society Foundations, and other high-profile liberal funding entities are now squarely under scrutiny. No longer can wealthy backers hide behind layers of nonprofits while paying for street-level disruption. The strategy combines aggressive enforcement with financial disruption. By cutting off funding and tracking financial networks, federal authorities are addressing the root of the problem, the money and infrastructure that allow radical groups to operate, coordinate, and intimidate communities. This means that Antifa operatives on the street aren't just facing law enforcement, they are isolated from their resources, disconnected from organizational support, and under constant surveillance. On the streets of Portland, the impact is clear. Tactical units move in synchronized waves, using technology like drones, thermal imaging, and real-time surveillance feeds to track targets. Officers work in teams to contain and remove agitators, ensuring that each arrest is surgical, minimizing collateral disruption to bystanders, while maximizing the psychological impact on the group. As word spreads through the movement, fear and confusion replace confidence and defiance. Ringleaders are now hesitant to organize marches, confrontations are shorter, and the once unified crowds are splintering into smaller, disorganized factions. This isn't just a temporary surge, it's a blueprint for nationwide enforcement. Federal authorities are demonstrating that location, proximity to power, or city size does not provide immunity. Funding networks that reach across multiple states can and will be disrupted. The combination of street-level enforcement, intelligence operations, and financial targeting is designed to cripple both the current operations and the future capacity of these radical groups. The psychological impact cannot be overstated. Antifa, once emboldened and seemingly untouchable, now operates under constant fear of arrest, federal investigation, and exposure. Key organizers who coordinated riots, funded operations, and spread propaganda find themselves in the crosshairs of powerful federal agencies. Their networks of influence, previously invisible to most, are now being traced and dismantled methodically. Beyond arrests, the operation sends a powerful message. No individual, group, or wealthy backer can hide behind chaos. Every dollar, every resource funneled into disorder, every hidden network enabling destruction will be exposed and challenged. The crackdown is both immediate and strategic, combining physical enforcement with systemic disruption. And this is just the beginning. Federal authorities are using the intelligence gathered in Portland to identify and neutralize similar networks in cities across America. Street-level agitators, financial sponsors, nonprofit enablers, and media propagandists all are under scrutiny. Portland may be the first major success in this campaign, but the ripple effect will be felt in other urban areas where chaos has been funded and exploited. For the public, the shift is tangible. Streets are safer, confrontations are shorter, and radical groups are less willing to show their faces. For Antifa, the calculation has changed. Every step outside now carries risk. Every march requires reconsideration, and the safety net of financial and logistical support has been significantly weakened. This coordinated federal approach illustrates a new model for tackling domestic unrest in America. It's not just about arresting a few high-profile rioters, it's about dismantling an entire ecosystem that allows lawlessness to thrive. It recognizes that funding, coordination, and strategic planning are as critical to these groups as street-level presence. By attacking the system from multiple angles, enforcement, finance, and intelligence, the federal government is setting a precedent for how domestic extremism can be systematically dismantled. The endgame is clear. Portland may just be the first example of a broader strategy to restore order, enforce the law, and ensure that no group can dominate public spaces through fear and funding. The streets that once belonged to radicals now reflect the power of coordinated federal action. And as this operation unfolds, it is sending a powerful signal: lawlessness and funded chaos will no longer go unchecked in America. The president's inner circle has been very clear in describing Antifa not just as a spontaneous, chaotic street movement, but as a sophisticated corporate-style operation. They operate with divisions for marketing, logistics, and legal support, all under the guise of grassroots activism. This is not simply a group of teenagers with spray paint and protest signs. It's an organized network with budgets, operational plans, communication strategies, and an infrastructure that mimics professional corporations. Each division has a specific role, from coordinating street-level actions to protecting key figures from legal consequences, and even managing public relations to maintain a narrative of legitimacy. The Trump administration is deploying every tool at its disposal to dismantle this network. They are using RICO statutes, IRS investigations, and Department of Justice oversight to follow the money, and the message is crystal clear: if you fund or organize street violence, your financial and legal activities will be scrutinized. Nonprofits, progressive foundations, and shell organizations that have historically provided funding to these groups are now under the microscope. The administration wants to make an example of anyone involved in funding or supporting violent protests, demonstrating that no amount of wealth or influence grants immunity. One notable figure in the movement is Mark Bray, the Rutgers professor who literally authored a book on Antifa tactics. Bray has claimed to be an academic observer, but his handbook has been widely circulated among radical networks and is considered an operational guide for activists seeking to engage in disruptive street tactics. After the administration's crackdown intensified, Bray reportedly fled to Spain with his family, citing alleged death threats. While he may be seen as a useful idiot in this narrative, his work has had real-world consequences, serving as a blueprint for coordinated protest tactics that have challenged law enforcement across the country. But Bray is just the tip of the iceberg. The real power behind Antifa lies with financiers and shadow networks that supply funding, logistics, and legal support. Figures like George Soros, through his Open Society foundations, have allegedly funneled upwards of $80 million into groups connected to violent protests since 2016. LinkedIn co-founder and Democratic mega-donor Reid Hoffman, along with the shadowy Arabella Advisors Network, have reportedly contributed over $100 million to professional protest organizations. These funds don't just cover travel or banners, they finance legal teams, bail funds, digital infrastructure, training programs, and other operational necessities that make street-level activism scalable and sustainable. Perhaps the most concerning financier, according to officials, is Neville Roy Singham, the former Microsoft executive who relocated to Shanghai in 2023. Singham is alleged to have funneled at least $100 million to US-based far-left groups while generating propaganda aligned with the Chinese Communist Party. This isn't just domestic politics, it's part of a broader geopolitical strategy that aims to influence and destabilize American society. By tracing the flow of funds and connections, federal authorities are now able to map the entire network, from international donors to local street agitators, effectively dismantling the movement's financial backbone. All of this is happening against the backdrop of President Trump's economic policies, which many analysts argue are directly influencing global finance in ways that intersect with domestic enforcement efforts. Recent tariff announcements against China, for example, coincided with a surge in gold and silver prices, reflecting broader strategies to strengthen American exports, rebuild domestic manufacturing, and reduce dependence on foreign supply chains. Goldman Sachs has recently raised its 2026 gold outlook to $4,900 per ounce, a figure considered conservative given the trajectory of these policies and ongoing inflationary pressures. Analysts expect these trends to continue over the next several years, creating both challenges and opportunities for Americans looking to protect their wealth. For those concerned about financial security in these turbulent times, physical gold and silver provide a reliable hedge. Augusta Precious Metals, for instance, specializes in helping individuals secure assets in IRAs, 401ks, and other retirement accounts. Their services are tailored to Americans with at least $50,000 to allocate, offering a stable, tangible alternative to paper investments that can be manipulated or devalued. With the administration taking strong action against domestic unrest and foreign influence while simultaneously reshaping the economy, protecting personal wealth has never been more important. The scope of the crackdown demonstrates a fundamental shift in strategy. Law enforcement is no longer focusing solely on street-level agitators, but is tracing the full spectrum of influence, funding, training, media manipulation, and international coordination. By dismantling both the operational and financial structures of Antifa, the administration is signaling that organized violence, no matter how well-funded or ideologically justified, will not be tolerated. This approach is a long-term strategy, designed not only to neutralize immediate threats, but also to deter future funding and participation. The chilling effect on financiers has already been observed, with some of the movement's most prominent backers reconsidering their involvement. The combination of legal scrutiny, financial oversight, and strategic enforcement ensures that these radical networks cannot easily rebuild once dismantled. For Americans looking to safeguard their wealth while the nation undergoes these significant economic and social transformations, physical precious metals are increasingly becoming a preferred option. Augusta Precious Metals provides resources and guidance to help investors navigate these changes, securing assets that are tangible, resilient, and independent of the fluctuations in paper currency or political instability. If you want to take action now, you can visit turleygold.com, call 844-763-3908, or text Turley to 35052 to learn more about protecting your retirement accounts through physical gold and silver. In a world where domestic unrest, foreign influence, and economic volatility are converging, taking control of your financial future is not just prudent, it's essential. Central banks around the world, gang, listen closely, are stocking up on gold and silver like never before. From Beijing to Berlin, from Moscow to Madrid, the people who run the global economy are quietly moving their reserves out of volatile currencies and into tangible, historically reliable assets. And that should tell you something. If central banks genuinely thought gold and silver had peaked in price, they wouldn't be buying it by the ton right now. They see what's coming: inflation, currency instability, market manipulation, and they're preparing the only way smart investors can, by holding real value. And you can do the same. My friends over at Augusta Precious Metals can walk you through exactly how this works. Their approach isn't about hype or pressure, it's education-based. They'll explain step by step how a gold IRA or silver IRA can protect your retirement savings from the same economic chaos we're watching unfold daily. Just go to turleygold.com, that's turleygold.com, or text Turley to 35052 right now. You'll instantly get access to a free 2-minute report revealing the greatest threat to your retirement today. Because here's the truth, the economy is changing fast, faster than any time in modern memory, but gold and silver have stored value through every empire collapse, every market crash, every crisis in human history. While President Trump is waging financial war against the radical left's money machine, stripping away their funding, freezing their assets, cutting off their offshore accounts, you should be protecting your own wealth with the same assets that central banks are hoarding as we speak. Again, that's turleygold.com, or text Turley to 35052 and take control of your financial future today. Now, perhaps the most shocking part of this entire story, we're learning that over $100 million in US taxpayer money has flowed directly through Antifa-linked networks. Yes, you heard that right. American taxpayers, you, me, every hardworking citizen have been involuntarily financing this far-left chaos. You can't make this up. According to an explosive new investigation by the Government Accountability Institute, Antifa isn't some ragtag movement of activists with spray paint and slogans. It's a multi-division corporate structure running like a professional enterprise. You've got the boots-on-the-ground division, the so-called useful idiots as many call them, the street agitators, the violent protesters, the people who think they're fighting fascism while being manipulated by professional organizers pulling the strings. Then there's the PR and marketing division, responsible for propaganda, recruitment, and narrative control. These are the ones flooding social media, coordinating hashtags, crafting emotional talking points, and spinning stories to make rioters look like heroes and law enforcement look like villains. Their job is not to protest, it's to manufacture consent and keep donations flowing. And it doesn't stop there. Behind them sits an entire legal and logistics wing, providing bail funds, legal defense, and rapid response infrastructure. Think about it. Every time you see mass arrests during a riot, within 24 hours, these people are released, not because the system is broken, but because there's an entire machine behind them funding lawyers, filing lawsuits, and intimidating prosecutors into backing down. The Government Accountability Institute found that taxpayer-funded grants, often funneled through federal agencies and sympathetic NGOs, have indirectly made their way to these very organizations. That means money that was meant to promote civic education, community programs, or social justice initiatives has been quietly diverted to support the infrastructure of political chaos. So when you see black-clad agitators smashing windows, lighting fires, and clashing with police, remember, they're not running on donations from GoFundMe. They're running on your tax dollars and elite funding funneled through non-profit loopholes that the Trump administration is now working to close. This revelation is blowing the lid off the myth that Antifa is a decentralized, leaderless movement. What the evidence now shows is a hierarchical, data-driven organization that operates with the efficiency of a multinational corporation, complete with accountants, lawyers, recruiters, social media strategists, and field operatives. The only difference? Their product is destruction, and their profit is chaos. And this right here is why Trump's crackdown is being described as historic. For the first time in modern history, the federal government is not just fighting the symptoms, the riots, the protests, the vandalism. It's going after the system that sustains them. The donors, the dark money groups, the foundations, and yes, even the government grants that have been quietly keeping the gears turning. So while federal agents are on the ground dismantling these networks piece by piece, Americans everywhere are waking up to the truth: our tax dollars have been weaponized against us. And that, gang, is exactly why it's more important than ever to protect your savings, your retirement, and your financial independence from the same corrupt institutions being exposed right now. And gang, this is where it gets truly wild. Antifa isn't just a bunch of street kids with spray paint and sticks. They have a whole legal division that handles bail funds, activist lawyers on standby, and rapid response teams who make sure arrested agitators are back on the streets in record time. It's like a corporate headquarters for chaos. They even have logistics operations, coordinating transportation for protests, moving people across cities, setting up staging areas, and ensuring the machinery of disruption keeps running smoothly. And yes, believe it or not, they've been paying homeless individuals to protest, literally turning desperation into street-level manpower for their radical agendas. Now here's the real bombshell. The investigation uncovered an incredibly complex funding network. Private billionaire donors like George Soros through his Open Society foundations, the Arabella Network, the Tide Foundation, and even Neville Roy Singham's CCP-linked funding channels all funneled money into these radical operations. But the most shocking discovery? Over $100 million in U.S. taxpayer funds flowed directly or indirectly into Antifa-linked networks. This happened in two primary ways. First, through direct grants to radical organizations, at least $4 million went straight to groups engaged in violent activities. Second, indirectly through partner nonprofits. Government grants, foundations, and NGOs redistributed funds to Antifa-linked groups under the radar, meaning you and I, ordinary taxpayers, were unknowingly financing this chaos. And here's a twist: before the crackdown hit, before federal enforcement dried up their resources, Elon Musk reportedly reviewed the Government Accountability Institute's findings and concluded that the $100 million figure might only be the tip of the iceberg. The true scale of taxpayer money funneled to radical left networks could be significantly higher, hidden in layers of intermediaries and nonprofit shell structures. But that's exactly why the Trump administration moved the way it did. They aren't just shutting down protests on Portland streets, they're bringing the full force of the federal government down on Antifa, using every tool in the arsenal. RICO statutes, usually reserved for organized crime, are being deployed. The IRS is investigating and threatening to revoke tax-exempt status from any nonprofit organization found supporting political violence. This isn't about temporary arrests or small-scale demonstrations. This is about dismantling the entire financial infrastructure that has been funding far-left chaos for years. Across safe houses, funding routes have been exposed, communications intercepted, donor networks mapped. The fear inside Antifa networks is palpable. They know their days of impunity are over. The crackdown is designed to send a nationwide chilling effect, not just to quell riots in Portland, but to dry up resources that allow similar unrest to erupt anywhere else. Even Silicon Valley donors and left-wing legal groups are realizing if they've provided material support, they could be next. Their era of financing street chaos is coming to an abrupt end. So gang, what do you think? Could this be the end of Antifa as a coordinated force in the US? Let us know down in the comments. And while you're thinking about that, don't forget to protect yourself and your wealth. This is exactly why smart Americans are turning to physical gold and silver to safeguard their retirement. Check out our friends at Augusta Precious Metals. Go to turleygold.com. That's turleygold.com. Or text Turley to 35052 for instant access to a free report revealing the greatest threat to your retirement today. The economy is changing, political unrest is rising, and now you can protect what's yours while understanding the full scale of what's happening on the streets and in the back rooms. God bless you, gang, and stay informed, stay vigilant.